Welcome to the Sci-Fi Center, the place to be, where comic books and wrestling collide magically. Movies, TV shows, and pop culture we share. Get ready to rock, we're here to take you there. From superheroes to aliens in outer space, we've got the latest news and reviews in our embrace. Turn on your screen, let the neon lights glow. We'll take you back to the 80s. Let's rock and roll. Sci-Fi Center, where the legends come alive. Get ready to geek out, let your imagination fly. We're diving into the past with a touch of modern flair. Sci-Fi Center, the ultimate pop culture lair.
Happy Sunday. Ooh, oh, hold on. That looks like shit. Give me a second. Oh, that's much better. A little bit better. Really can't see me much when I'm not wearing a hat, but I really don't like wearing these cat ears without the hat because I just don't have the right head for it. Welcome to Sunday. Welcome to our weekly Sunday night live stream. I'm your host, William from the Sci-Fi Center, coming to you live from the Sci-Fi Center. Just one day removed from my favorite day of the year, which was Free Comic Book Day, which was a unmitigated success. And now it's May the 4th. I usually do something on Star Wars. We usually have the Force duelist out here doing lightsaber duels and outdoor movie, but luckily I had canceled all that because I wanted to devote my energy to Free Comic Book Day. But the weather's been shitty here. It's been raining the last couple of days. We still got some light rain, and I would have had to cancel anyway. And I hate having to cancel things after I planned them. So tonight is May 4th. May the 4th be with you, everybody. I don't know how that became Star Trek or Star Wars Day when the movie gets released. I'm like, I think, May 27th or something. But hey, everybody's bought into it, usually, and I'm one of them. So, like I said, Star Trek is my preferred franchise, but I grew up on Star Wars just like any kid, any Generation Xer. Um, I am not the biggest fan of the state of Star Wars at the moment or its fans, which is hilarious because we're doing a Star Wars show. But like I said, I am a fan of Star Wars, and if there's one thing that would kind of puts a bad taste in your mouth about any of these IPs is you know either the state of the franchise or the fans who end up kind of treating it like a religion to the point where having different religions is cool, but having cults are not cool. So yeah. All right, let's say hi to all my little Jedi's and Jedi Knights here. Yes, how you doing, Music Man? May the fourth be with you as well. Jurassic King, nice to see you. May the fourth be with you. Okay, so which my favorite Star Trek film? I have my list. I put together a list and I put it in the description. If you guys want to give me your list too as well, you can. Brad will be on in a minute. I'm pretty sure he has a list. But I'm going to go over my list in a couple seconds after I finish saying hi. I mean, I've done it before. It's pretty much the same as it was last time. I think a lot of people might still be surprised where I have at the top and what I have in the middle. Hello, Ozzy. How are you doing? May the fourth be with you as well. It is now. It was well. I didn't have my light on. See the cool thing about streaming from a place like this is you get to kind of see what's going on, behind the retail counter sometimes, and it's where I have to be in order to be able to do it while the store is open. But the thing that sucks about it is the lighting isn't as good as it would be in like a ready-made studio, and also these mic issues that I've been having. A lot of it's done to do with StreamYard and computer. But even on my best day with my most expensive mic, because I'm not in the type of setting, it's a really open area, and there's a door right here, so I don't sound as well. So yeah, I have to do a little bit. I have to do some extra stuff to be able to make it sound, because I was listening to the shows. Because I listen to all their shows again just to see how we can get better, and I hated the way I sound. Now I sound better with here because this microphone is designed to be right up on me, and it's designed to cancel out everything. Whereas this mic right here was not. You have to do certain things to it to be able to do it, and it's meant to be in an environment that is closed with with a much smaller room. I'm in a 1,300 square foot, basically cavernous place, so for its size, and with acoustics from 1962. So there you go. Yeah, they work. I mean, like I said, I have a big head, and I hate the way they jut out this way. But like I said, I've even used them on. There's one of my avatars that has them on there. They work. They're it's the best mic I had. The best mic I ever had was this one. And I still can't find it in me to throw it away because it was really kick ass mic. It was one of the ones that had a filter and it built in to blow out. So to where everything. It didn't sound like I was so far away on this one, but there you go. How you doing down there? What's going on? Yeah, start like I said. The bad thing about the new Superman movie that's coming out is you're about to be reminded of, if you've forgotten, just how awful some fans are. Just how absolutely not all of us, not all of us, but you know who they are. They can't enjoy what makes them feel good without stopping somebody else from feeling good. And I see that a lot in Star Wars. And the problem with Star Wars is that the executives have reacted to that and they boxed themselves in. So now we have, in my opinion, the same old Skywalker cul-de-sac that even when they try to come, this didn't have Luke Skywalker in it, but you wouldn't have had that story without him. And I think anybody who wants to tell me that Star Wars is relying on Skywalkers, I don't even want to hear you. You're basically you're putting limitations on what could be such a much larger franchise that don't need to be there, that don't belong there. So yeah, I think that the executives have responded to the Skywalker side of things, as far as the people who just want to see, you can't do Star Wars without Skywalker. Yes, you can. That even sounds stupid on its face. Saying that out loud just made me feel dumber. You can't do Star Wars without or the Skywalker adjacent stuff that's either derived from Star, even the Mandalorian. All that is within the same, same husk of time that I've grown up with. So yeah, but they do that because they're terrified of doing something. And like I said, if you run a big franchise like Star Wars, which means you're in charge of billions and billions of dollars, I don't think you have the luxury of being a wuss. I can't believe we haven't gone further and longer and more expansive in the Star Wars universe than we're now. We're the best thing on Star Wars that's on TV right now. As good as Andor is, it leads me right back to the same damn cul-de-sac that I've been living in since the 70s. So, but and Star Trek was guilty of it for a long time until they manned up and said, you know what? We're going to go this direction. We dare you not to follow us. J.J. Abrams did what he did with Star Trek, pissed off a lot of people, but he dared them to either sit on the sidelines or come with me on this. And that's all New Trek, too. These guys don't love New Trek, but that doesn't stop new Trek from being made. I mean, that would be horrible if all of Star Trek was Captain Kirk and the crew of the original series. Now we've done other things with them. We've brought them back, Strange New Worlds, the J.J. Abrams stuff. But look how expansive the Star Trek is versus Star Wars. Not only do you have multiple enterprises, this Star Trek is not even always about the Enterprise. Just because it started there and that's what it made its name. So saying that we have to stay in the same window with these same characters is like saying that Star Trek is all about Captain Kirk. You can make a stronger case that Star Trek is more about the Enterprise than anything else, but Deep Space Nine, Discovery, you know, Voyager. So yeah, I am not the biggest fan of the current state of Star Trek. Star Wars. I still love Star Wars. There's still movies that I watch that I enjoy, but I don't like the direction they've gone. And I think the direction they've gone is largely because of they're terrified to lose a connection with a fan base that's my age now. What are you doing forward? Are you just going to get new actors to play Luke Skywalker? I mean, are we gonna just grab different actors to play these characters? Because, be honest with you, it doesn't matter. Once these guys have gone away, I didn't need. I've had them for 40 something years. I don't need another Luke Skywalker story. I don't need another Skywalker story for the rest of my life. I'm ready to move on. 1,000 years forward, 2,000 years forward, or 1,000 years back, 4,000 years back. You know, Knights of the Old Republic, Tales of the Jedi. There's a lot you can do. But like I said, it's just everything that they're so reliant on that, and a lot of it is because of their fan base, which is kind of sad. Because a 48-year-old franchise should have a lot more real estate to it than just where we're at right now. That's how I feel about the state of Star Wars. How you doing, Anthony? Us Trekkies have 2 days Star Trek and first contact day. You have April 6th, and then we have September 8th. But yeah, I mean, I look at as much as and I'll bring Brad here in a second. As much as Star Trek in my lifetime has aggravated the hell out of me, and you know how I feel about old Trek fan. If there's happiness to be had, old Trek fans coming with the axe to get it. And from 2005 to 2000 maybe 16, as far as Trek on TV, old Trek fan basically held it hostage, and we didn't get any. So yeah, I don't want Star Wars to become what old Trek fan made it, but it took the producers and it took the studio heads and Viacom and Paramount to say, at some point, if we want to keep this alive, we have to breathe new oxygen and we have to breathe new blood in it. It can't just be the guy who loves Star Trek, the guy who's in their 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s. We're going to age out and die. What's going to be left for these generations? That's why there's so many generations, or not generations, the last 2 generations, to be honest with you, the millennials and the ones after that, they're watching these movies 1, 2, 3, and 4. So they're not, nothing will touch episode 4. No. They started with episode 1. They weren't nearly as annoyed with it with we are. They went to Clone Wars. They went to Revenge of the Sith. Then they watched the one that we hold as the Holy Grail. Then they watched Empire Strikes Back. Then they watched Return of the Jedi. And then they go watching Mandalorian. So what are you giving these guys? Because you're still feeding them the same stuff that I grew up with as a toddler and an infant. The same characters, Chewie, Han, Leia. Okay, we don't have those anymore. Okay, let's go to Andor. Guess what that leads to? Wow, I think I might have heard of that movie before. The Mandalorian, as much as I love the Mandalorian, it's that safe spot. Went so far as to bring Luke back and stick his face on somebody else. When you have to start doing that, that means once Mark Hamill is 70, when you have to start putting new faces on your 70-year-old current actors or dead actors, then it's time for a new story. And with that, I'm going to bring in my never on time co-host. How you doing, Brad?
Hello, everybody.
So Yeah, I don't want to be like I said. This is a positive. I at the same time I'm giving you the state of where I think Star Wars is and where I personally, as a lifelong fan, think it needs to go. This is a positive day. The fact is Star Wars is an epic IP that has been ingrained in the world culture since 1977. It is one of those movies like when we were talking about the Matrix versus like a John Wick type of thing. Star Wars changed movie making, and the Matrix changed movie making. Blade Runner changed movie making. The Godfather changed movie making. If you had a pantheon or a big giant Michelangelo picture of all the things that changed movie making, Star Wars is there. It's there, if not half the picture. So, um, at its worst day, Star Wars is still a franchise that has potential for positiveness. It's just it doesn't have an identity right now. It either has the old tired identity or the one that they're afraid to embrace. And eventually they're gonna have to do it. I just hope I'm still on the planet when we get around to that. All right. Let's see. Original trilogy. I like the original trilogy and the sequels, but I can't stand the prequel alive. I have some of the prequels in my top films. So
Yeah, we gone into that yet? We're going through our top 10.
yeah, I was waiting for you. All right. The force is strong with this. R.I.P. Gerald. Yeah, here James Earl Jones. What's going on, HEJ?
What's going on?
Whenever you guys say I'm not sure you agree with it, it probably means I'm not going to. But hey, William, I'm not sure.
Go ahead and read
William,
it.
not sure if you agree with me. The people in charge of Star Wars are reactionary, but I think Star Wars is even more. Star Wars was reactionary. I mean, Star Trek was reactionary, and I will agree with you that Star Wars people are reactionary because and when you're reactionary, I've never ever seen a situation where bosses that are reactionary reacted to the right interaction. Every time I've seen a franchise or a business or anybody react to the loudest people in the room, it's usually not the ones that are representative of everybody. They are just the loudest ones. Star Trek was that way. Star Trek reacted, dude. Old Trek fan had Star Trek runners on a leash drinking out of a dish. That's what old Trek fan did. Finally, J.J. Abrams, when he came through, because at that time J.J. Abrams had the credibility of what he had done, and when he broke through and he rolled up on his yacht and to the port and said, "You guys who are open to what we're about to do, you get on the yacht." And then he blew up a little raft for everybody else, and then he pushed it away from the dock and said, "Everybody else, you can either get on this yacht, eat this good food with us, play shuffleboard with all these other people, or you can hang around on this raft and float to wherever the hell you want to go." Guess what? They will never admit it out loud. Old Trek fan got on that yacht. The numbers show Old Trek fan got on that yacht. Old Trek fan pissed and moaned on his way to the new Trek and stuff that's out there. Some people that I really respect the hell out of. But you know what? We have Strange New Worlds. We have Star Trek Discovery. We have Lower Decks. We have these things, and we have more to come. Is it perfect? No. But they're taking chances. They're taking risks. They're not reacting. Because when you react, like I said, 10 times out of 10, you are reacting to the wrong voices. Anything I can tell you that we've ever talked about, whether it be Warner Brothers, whether it be Star Trek, whether it be Star Wars, they are reacting to the class clown, not the A student that's sitting there just taking in the lesson. So yeah, I can agree with and disagree with you somewhat. Not so much with Star Trek anymore, but definitely at one point, and definitely with Star Trek, but definitely with Star Wars right now. Looking forward to the shit Superman fans. No, neither am I. Neither am I. That's one of the things that I'm not looking forward. I'm not looking forward to the shit Superman fans. I've had to listen to. Okay, I don't want to bring up another YouTuber on the show. That's not on our. If he's not on my thumbnail, I don't bring him. No disrespect to Matt Jarbo, but that's a uniform thing that we do with any YouTuber because it starts.
We don't
shit
call
that
out other YouTubers, because there are other people who that's their brand is like just picking fights with people. It's like that's all we do.
But yeah, I am not looking forward to the discourse that's coming up with Superman because it's never been good. Like I said, certain Superman fans, not all of them, certain Superman fans rival any worst fandom I've ever been a part of or ever been near. If you're in a fan conversation and somebody says so and so gets whatever character you're talking about, and the character's been around for decades and had many people doing it, you should get up from that table, find a way out of that conversation, answer your phone if it's not ringing, text somebody to call you if you want to do it politely. You need to get out of that conversation. If you're in a conversation where somebody says how much they love a certain version of something, but they can't help themselves but to bash another version of it, you change the subject, because that subject is dead with that person, in my opinion, because you can't have a conversation with people like that. I listen. I don't give a fuck about your childhood memories. All right, I don't. They are yours. What makes you feel good about these IPs and all that, they are yours, and you have every right to them. But your childhood memories and what made you feel warm and fuzzy about any certain generation of a character is not a sledgehammer that you need to aim at my throat. You can be excited about James Gunn's Superman without bashing any number of Superman out there. You can love Henry Cavill's Superman without pre-shitting on a Superman that hasn't even hit the screen yet. It's possible. It can happen. It just takes more than a few brain cells. All right. So, Daniel Martin, what do you think of the Mandalorian Grogu movie can do? I'm not sure. I don't know where Star Wars is financially right now, and I definitely don't know. You got Grogu, and that's money. I don't know what kind of money something that is not Star Wars can make, because they put themselves in such a box that if it doesn't have Star Wars on it, because a solo movie wasn't a bad movie. It wasn't great, but the fact that it was so detached from what, and you had a dead character in there that was dead before that movie hit out. Who the fuck's going to care about that? So yeah, I don't know what kind of money and what kind of viability something that they haven't done will do. Now, Grogu and the Mandalorian are popular, but we don't know how popular they will be in the cinema. There's a difference between something being great in streaming and being great in the cinema. It's not always the same. So I'm curious. I don't have an answer. I don't have an answer for you. Detective Valiant was great. Yeah, Jackson Guys, man, fuck. That guy, 63 years old. That Jackson Guys, for those of you who don't know, I didn't have a chance to bring up any of this. I got some of the stuff here. One of the greatest artists I've ever seen. And that guy knew how to draw women with curl. I mean, the hairstyles, he took great care with every detail that he put in his art. Would look, it would look always crisp and shiny. Ah, man, 63 years old, or 60. Yeah, he was in his 60s. He was not old at all, and he's gone. Rest in peace, Jackson Guys. Do I think the Maple Leafs have a legitimate chance of beating the Panthers? If you're still alive in the second round, you have a legitimate chance. I don't think so. I think the Panthers have been there. I think the Panthers are going to the final. So yeah, I don't think so. But once again, hockey is goofy this time of year. Shitty teams come out from under and do things that they didn't have. Well, it got screwed up because of the response. I mean, you weren't. If you had a plan, you stick with the plan. The only time Star Wars has ever done anything when they mess up is because either they didn't have a plan or they had a plan and some noise moved them off of what their plan was. That's not professional. I love old news. Yeah, I grew up on it. I grew up on all of it. Music Man William, what Star Wars books are set after the original trilogy?
You talking about universe stuff?
Yeah, if you're talking about the expanded universe stuff, the Yuzan Vong, what was that? Something I forgot what this trilogy was, but it was the one where Chewie dies and that Yuzan Vong take over the entire universe, and they're finally beaten with some magic trick or whatever. You have Dark Empire takes place after the original trilogy. Anything after Dark Empire is pretty much the ones that take place. I have some novels here, but I'm not near them right now. But yeah, the Dark Empire. But the other ones, most of them take place in between, like Heir to the Empire, things like that. So, all right. William, they aren't terrified. Dave, lonely for not. We went through this before, Ratchet, and even if this is 100% right, we're in 2025, dude. We're in year 48 of this franchise. We're in year 10 of what was supposed to be a new beginning. we're in year whatever of these TV shows. We've had 3, 4 TV shows that have every single one of them has taken place within the vicinity of either the Battle of Yavin or we have a show in The Mandalorian that takes place in between movies that we've already seen. So we know we're enclosed there. So great. If this is the case, Rational, what's taking so long? What's taking so long? And the reason why this is taking so long is because the reliance on the same old shit. Dude, they were so terrified, and I remember getting in not a heated argument with Enosh on this, because I'm like, okay, you're either a pussy or you're not. So if you're taking the helm of Star Wars, that means you got some pretty big balls. So you so terrified that if we don't put the Skywalkers in it, nobody will buy it. That's pussy logic for me. If you're a CEO, a fan can have that kind of logic. A fan can have desires to see Luke Skywalker and the Skywalker clan for the rest of his days. But if you're trying to grow something, if you're trying to make something multi-generational going forward, then you can't be afraid to go in a totally new direction. Even if you had the old nostalgia characters, hey, Chewie, we're home. You know what? Give them a half hour of the 2 hour to half an hour movie. That movie turned into something that could have been a new beginning for Star Wars, into basically a rehash of my childhood again. My grown ass did not come there to see. I saw Han. I saw Leia. I saw Luke. I saw R2. I saw them all. I saw them all for years and years and years. So yeah, that's whatever he's doing now. We should have been doing this in 2015. They should have came back to Star Wars with something new. But what they did is, because they went for the nostalgia button, you put those familiars in there, and if you don't do whatever that particular fan base wants to do, then they'll turn on you, and now you're reacting to them. And look what you had. Those last 2 movies were not good movies, in my opinion. So they're at the bottom of my list when we get to that. That's just my opinion. I am somewhat wished we weren't in the blockbuster movie era. We've been in the blockbuster movie era for about 40 years. How about?
It's been a blockbuster era since there have been blockbusters. It's really been since it's attributed, like the summer blockbusters really kind of pinpointed to the kind of the combo of Jaws and the first Star Wars. So,
and it got real big in 1989 with Batman.
Oh yeah.
That's when the term "bopo" came, because no movie had made $200 million like that in that span of time, if I can remember. I'm somewhat wish we weren't into. Okay, even the Thunderbolts had some spot effects. Doesn't take me completely out. Yeah, I don't do the effects thing. If you notice, I do my best to shut that down. You guys come up here with the CGI science and the CGI X-Files and the magnifying glass up into the screen. I don't entertain those conversations. If that turns you off in a movie, that's your opinion. I just don't entertain it here for myself. It has to be bad, and number one, it has to be bad so far through and so prevalent in the movie that it distracts me. And like I said, the only time where a scene distract me to the point where I was like, oh my goodness, is, like I said, the one I always bring up, Killmonger and Black Panthers, the Lego man, whatever the fuck that was, in a movie that was otherwise beautiful. So yeah, I don't CGI, spotty CGI doesn't take me out. Half the times when people bring it up, I'm like, oh yeah, I fucking missed that, sorry.
Probably the worst I've ever seen is and even then, it's like you should have some. You put this in context that's been over 20 years since it came out. But The Mummy Returns, with The Rock as the Scorpion King.
That was bad because I knew who The Rock was. I knew what The Rock was supposed to look like.
Yeah, and see the thing is, they marketed him, because this is before he became a movie star. This is when he was primarily still known as a pro wrestler. And they marketed the shit out of The Rock and the Mummy, and he's in the beginning as the Rock, as Scorpion King, and then he comes back at the end. He's a big CGI lobster, and not good looking CGI lobster either. It has horrible effects. Even for the time.
To be honest, because it was 2000, and the Rock was a huge star by then. So,
well, that was the beginning of it, and it's funny because once we got to his actual movie, the Scorpion King a year later, that actually I thought is. Those are kind of. I do have a soft spot for the Scorpion King franchise, because those are kind of like a little bit like modern day kind of riff on Conan the Barbarian.
William, you've been following Star Trek news. I have. But here's the thing, though. That's like telling me that I'm going to be able to live on the moon here pretty soon. How long am I waiting for this, Rational? And why didn't we start there? See, this is all great what you're telling me. My question, in the state that we're in right now, I don't know when we're going to get an actual Star Wars proper movie again. I don't know when they're going to get the balls to do it. But we're here now because of the decisions they made. I'm glad that they finally came to the proper decision making 10 years later. Dude, at this rate, how do you even get up in the morning and find your way to the bathroom if they were thinking this slow? So yeah, it's great that they, but why did we have to have 10 years of bloodletting with nostalgia when we could have started there if they had the balls to? Like I said, they will never say it out loud, but they're terrified. How can you be so afraid of your own shadow to where you don't expand and grow your IP? Star Trek is the biggest contemporary of that. That if anybody has shown you that a risk can pay off, it's them, and they're much bigger. Disney is much bigger than Paramount ever was. So yeah, I mean, like I said, this is great. I'll believe it when I see it, and B, even when it happens, it took too long, too little, too late for me. Who knows if I'll ever come back to Star Wars in that level? But him, I have heard many people say Revenge of the Sith is their favorite Star Wars film. And I've heard old Star Wars fan wanting to pick up a branch and go after him, but I'm like, you know what? It's one of my favorite. You'll see where it falls in my top 10. Chappie, William, old Trek fans are bad for getting Star Trek canceled, but Star Wars fan goes as far as the bully actor. Well, that too. That I hadn't even got to the bullying and stuff like that. That was silly. I'm talking about how their interaction and their relationship with the people who actually write this stuff and produce this stuff. It's gotten so bad that if that's who they're listening to, it's no wonder why the franchise is where it is right now. Let's see. I am not down under, so it's I still got 2 hours left in it, Joga. Happy May the 4th, Williams Fly.
Yes, Happy May the 4th. I mean, Williams Fly.
We saw Thunderbolts last night. Good. Dude, Geist was killing it on New Gods. Yeah, I didn't even know he was ill. I didn't even know Jackson Geist was ill. I mean, there's a thing called the Marvel Universe. Back in the day, before the internet, it was an encyclopedia. So if you wanted to find, and I have some around here somewhere, if you wanted to find out about a character, it gave you the description. It was an encyclopedia, literally, of the Marvel Universe at the time. So a character would come out, and the characters that were working on them would draw them, or the character that was known for, like Todd McFarlane, would draw all the Spider-Man characters at the time because that was who was working on the book. I think Jackson Geist did one for Thor because he was working on those Thor books at the time, and he did a picture of the Enchantress that was just, man, it was like, it looked in my kid mind, it belonged in a museum somewhere. He's one of those guys that from the 80s, like the Mark Silvestris, the Todd McFarlanes, the Rick Leonardis. These guys were really good, and it was different. Back in that era, there's two things that were that defined that book, not just to run that book, the artist and the writer. Yeah, it's kind of the same now, but not anywhere near as like it was like when you had Ann Nocenti and John Romita Jr. Going on Daredevil, Frank Miller and Klaus Janson on Daredevil, Mark Silvestri and Chris Claremont, Jim Lee and Chris Claremont. Jackson Geist was one of those guys, and it's like, damn. I mean, dude, people are living longer, so when I hear about people dying in their 60s, I'm like, God damn, that just sucks, man. All right. Heir to the Empire. Heir to the Empire is in the middle. Heir to the Empire is in the middle. I don't think it takes place after. Let's see. Just gonna get to these before I get to my list. Stop sniffling. Damn it. Numbers. No, wow, I haven't seen you in a long time. Numbers. The Rambunctious Hellion, a name he got from Brad. Hey, William, have you heard about Donald Trump? Now, this is not a political question, so I will answer it. It sort of is, but it actually leads to real life. We cannot talk movies, without talking about this because this is going to fuck things up. Donald Trump's decision to impose 100% tariff on all films produced outside of the United States that are imported in the country. All right, so I don't think this is going to eventually happen. I think this is dead right now.
On arrival.
Yeah, right now there's some studio heads, there's some hedge fund operators, there's some financier companies, there's a whole bunch of people that are in this live chain of making movies that are probably texting down right now about this. There are a lot of powerful people that are going to be affected, and then okay. So not only that, the case that they're going to make is this: A, it's stupid.
Yeah.
B, you're going to affect the supply chain that is movie making that is global now.
Mhm.
It's global. It's not you're not going to deglobalize movie making. First of all, where are you filming Dune? Out here in Vegas? There are places that are involved in production that are all over this world. I mean, Game of Thrones adds it's literally its own economy within HBO. They film in Glasgow. And so you can't do that. It doesn't even when you say it, it's almost makes you laugh because it's like there's no way. I mean, Canada is huge in the movie market. And we need to make movies here in America. You can't make every movie in America. There are setting issues that you're going to have. There's labor issues that, you know what? Guess what? Everybody says, they want to buy American. Listen, I'm a patriot as much as anybody else would. But there's this thing I've been fighting all my life. It's called math. And when you say that, you want on the one side of our face, we want people to make a living wage. We want people to be able to afford things. We want people to be able to survive on things besides dry top ramen and ketchup. You want people to be able to put their kids through school and be able to be a part of the economic society that they live in. But at the same time, we have a problem in corporations in all of America with paying people that value. And guess what? It's not just the corporate fat cats. It's us, the customer. Like I said this over and over again, we want cheap shit. So when in globalization has made it to where through ugly means and pretty means, we can go into that's a totally different moral decision and sweatshops and all this other stuff that goes on global. But the bottom line of the math is that it's the cost of living and production in other places makes it so that you can get things for a price you can afford. Unfortunately, I'm not saying that's right. I'm not saying that's heroic or anything like that. That's math, though. Math doesn't care about any. Math does not care about your feelings, anything. Math doesn't see flags. It sees math. So to film, even if you film in Georgia, and there's certain places in the United States
Atlanta, like
that
Marvel, Atlanta.
yeah, that you can fit. But guess what? For every production that happens in Atlanta, Georgia, they can't all happen there.
Yeah.
Hamilton, Ontario is a big place. Even if you give tax incentives, there are places overseas where the tax that doesn't even apply. So, and plus, once again, so that reason, the math reason, and the fact that you couldn't, where are you filming Dune? You can't film a Star, dude. The studios in London for Star Wars, the sound stages, those are already established there, and you're talking.
Has one in Leavesden they established too.
Yeah, so you're talking about really affecting the supply chain of making a movie to where we're one of the biggest problems with the movie ticket is most people think they're too expensive. They're not going to get any cheaper because you're bringing it here and you're going to have to pay more to make it. So but plus, like I said, it's you're putting a tax on something that's already stopping people from going to see the movie. A tariff is a tax.
Yeah.
So you're adding money because, like I said, you think Disney and Warner Brothers and Paramount and A24, you think they're going to eat that? You think the hubcaps are coming off that golf cart? No, that's getting passed to us. So the biggest problem we have right now and why everybody's going to streaming and doing this is that, it's expensive to go to the movies. So everybody who's involved in that supply chain is probably texting them right now. I doubt this is ever going to happen.
Yeah,
if I had to bet my change, I doubt this is ever going to happen.
Yeah, this is really, yeah. Without getting like too deep in it, because William kind of dove in a lot of that anyway. Yeah, this thing is dead on arrival. I mean, you like again where you film Doom, but I mean again with the internationalization of like filmmaking these days. I mean, it's like you can't film. A lot of movies these days are filmed in multiple places. They're filmed like partially stateside, they're filmed partially overseas, and there's logistical elements of that that are just inherent to whatever under any number of factors. Like I mean, they're again, Game of Thrones. I mean, it's like what works better for as a location for Game of Thrones? Is it Arizona or is it Glasgow?
Here's another thing: tariffs work both ways. And not only can that country slap tariffs on the ticket prices of your movies, which puts them in that moviegoer in a bad spot, they can say, you know what, we're going to limit the screens in your market. China, these guys are always trying to get into China. You start doing that with China, will be like, okay, we're not even gonna put your movie on the screen. That
They've
limits
already
the
threatened to
global
do that.
money, and they've done it in some cases. But would you want if you start saying like movies that are filmed in the UK, we're going to charge a tariff so that because what you're doing is if you're saying, well, it has to be made here in America, you're costing their economy. You're screwing up the supply chain there. You're costing them jobs, and you're adding a cost to it to make it, So what they're going to do is when your movie comes to Britain, they're going to be like, we'll put it on half the screens, or we'll charge more. So guess what? You make less than you do in America on an overseas film. So it's not even viable for the studios to do that because they're going to be breaking even or losing money. So yeah, for so many reasons, this one to me, anything could happen. But for the reasons I laid out, I think this one's just something to be said, and it never happens. Let's see.
Oh, Daniel's got one here for me. I got to put it up. Brad, you never told us the Raid 2 was back in theaters. I had to look at the description closely before finding out. I mean, that's news to me. And you would think that I would be the one telling you guys that. It's like, so, yeah. I mean, if it's out,
Daniel, I want you to do something for me right now, Daniel. I want you to, if you have your earphones on, I want you to press them to your head right now. If you're near a speaker, I want you to press your ear against that, and I want you all to listen to this.
Welcome to the Sci-Fi Center.
All right.
Yeah, and the cast of the Raid 2, they went on to be in a Star Wars movie, so which makes it very sci-fi relevant.
That you have to dig for to find. That tells you everything.
No, they're very prominent. They don't get to do any martial arts in it, but they get eaten by a squid monster very early on, so they're there.
Yeah, they'll take up some tax exempt status. A brilliant idea. Yeah, and that's another thing. For every move, there's another move because these companies are going to protect their revenue streams, and this is not the time to make it harder for studios to make money. And theaters are going to get screwed too because guess what? If you have to if the companies are going to recoup that money through ticket sales, that's less money to buy on the things that the theater actually relies on and survives on, which are concessions and popcorn buckets and food. So yeah, this ain't going to happen. NATO will get involved. So everybody that shows up at CinemaCon will be on the text line being, no, we can't do this. So now don't worry about that. All right. So let's go. What?
He just clarified. There's a movie called Raid 2, not the Raid 2 Brad, an Indian Hindu crime thriller. Okay, well, that clarifies that.
Welcome to the Sci-Fi Center.
All right. I'm going to go first when it comes to my favorite Star Trek movies. Star Wars movies. So what? Today. You know what I mean. All right. I'm going to start with number 10, my least favorite. I may have left the movie off. If I have, let me know. But, here we are. All right. Number 10.
There's all told, there's 11. It was the Skywalker movies. There's Rogue One and Solo.
I have 10, including those.
It's this three original, prequel, and sequel trilogy. That's 9. Then Rogue One is 10, and then Solo's 11.
Oh, you know what? Okay, number 1. I know what I did here. All right, so I have to redo this real quick because I wrote it down on the thing, but I didn't slide it over to the little dial thing. Hold on, because that one's an important one. So let's see this. Change the numbers. All right, so you said 11, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I know what I missed.
I suppose you could say there's 12 if you want to count the Clone Wars. That did have a theatrical run.
Movies.
Okay.
Hold on. 9. Let's see. 9, 10. All right, so number 11 is Rise of Skywalker. It's the bottom of my list for a reason.
Clint, no, we're not including the holiday special.
No, we're only made for theatrical release.
Yeah, Aaron also asked, like, no, and if we included that, that would be last place by default.
No. All right, what she bring up? What was it she brought up?
She has said the same thing. Does the holiday special count?
No. Okay, so number 11 to me is my least favorite Star Wars film, and that is going to be the last.
The Rise of
Last
Skywalker.
Jedi. Rise of Skywalker. I'm sorry, I have too many screens. ACS. I don't know how you do this shit. Rise of Skywalker. I just think it's a bad movie. It's more what makes everything about the franchise that I don't like right now. The latching on, the death grip to nostalgia is in this movie. It's a beautiful movie to watch, effects wise and everything else. But at the core of the movie, I just couldn't enjoy it. Number 10. This one's easy. The Last Jedi. I thought was just more of the same. More of the, you know what? Let's just go to the old folks' home and just shoot our movie from there because we can't move off of this. There were some elements about it that I liked, but not enough. I remember watching that movie and just wanting it to be over. All right, number 9 for me is the Phantom Menace, and that's the one I actually meant to insert there. I left it off. I can't believe I left it off. I
Amidala there at the bottom, so I guess it's kind of there.
Yeah, what'd you say?
You got Padme and the Amidala makeup, so you kind of have it there.
Oh, okay. Oh, on the thing. Haha, lawyers. Phantom Menace. There are elements of the Phantom Menace I just absolutely hate, but it's balanced out by some things that are really kick ass. The introduction of Darth Maul, that movie is bad. Is whatever that movie falls in my heart. The introduction of Darth Maul, that fight, the Duel of the Fates, the Obi-Wan battle with Darth Maul, the original battle with Qui-Gon. The score is good. The scope, it's a beautiful movie. Naboo, all that stuff is great. There's not enough for it for me to refer to it as anything higher than number 9. And then for me at number 8, even though technically it's not a Star Wars movie, I thought Solo was a tragedy. I didn't think it was a bad movie at all. It just should have never been made, especially when it was made. It was like, why are you doing this? You rip people's hearts out with killing Han, and then you make this movie about once again, we're not drifting forward, we're drifting in that safe spot where we can't go out. I didn't think Solo was a horrible movie at all. I thought it was actually a pretty decent movie, but its mission failed because of what it was put into. Number 7 for me is The Force Awakens. Halfway through The Force Awakens, I thought, okay, this is good. I can, you introduce Finn, you introduce Rey. You're doing sort of what I want you. I wish you would have gone 1,000 years or whatever, but you're sort of doing. We're leaving the old luggage behind, and we're at Ross, and we're getting some of that new stuff in there, right? There's a connection there. I'm right. That's fine. I'm thinking, okay, I'm sitting in the middle of something, a passing of the torch. No, it's not. It ended up being just older versions of what I had already had my entire life. And they looked at that and they're like, everybody loves them. Let's go back in time and let's be kids again, even though we're grown fucking adults. I hated the second half of that movie. I absolutely hated so many things that they could have done this way that they did that way. What are we doing with Finn? What do we ever do with Finn? Finn should have been a Jedi in training, because when he picks up that lightsaber and goes up against Kylo Ren, who is a trained Jedi, an extremely powerful Jedi, he shouldn't have lasted a quarter of a second. He got some good swipes in. So that showed his potential, what they were trying to do there. They didn't do it. They reacted. They didn't do it. What was Rey supposed to end up being? Who's messaging me in the middle of my show? Hold on. Okay, this is different. What Rey's potential, the way they introduced her, was like, okay, this is going to be great. Nope. All the new elements in this movie ended up being is just reflections in mirror to show me of the old shit that, like I said, by the time 2015 it came around, we're talking about what, 30 some odd years of those characters. So you teased me with the elements of new Star Wars and a next generation, and basically wrapped it around every relic you could give me in that movie. But it made everybody feel good for the moment, but it led to where we are now with Star Trek. So Force Awakens, I wanted the first half, puts it at 7. But that last half makes it harder to put it anywhere else. I'm gonna get a lot of heat about this. Don't care. Number 6, Attack of the Clones. I enjoyed the Attack of the Clones. I enjoyed that battle. I enjoyed Christopher Lee as Count Dooku. General Grievous was a waste of time, but once again, I can't love Revenge of the Sith without having much of the same regard about Attack of the Clones, because that's where it begins. So I enjoyed that movie. I enjoyed some of the Jedi lore that sort of made it into that movie. I enjoyed Attack of the Clones, the action-packed movie. For 2002, I had a lot of fun with it. Number 5 is Revenge of the Sith. It is in my top 5. It's one of the best, one of the best Star Wars movies. There's a lot that even 20 years later, I can't believe it's been 20 years later, that I can refer to, and a lot of questions and things that for that time was good to answer, with seeing how Vader became what he was, the Battle of Mustafar, all the years we heard about Obi-Wan being the one who crippled him, and seeing that happen.
Just say it.
What?
Just say it. Oh, sorry. Just say it. Because, like, I mean, you gave it all away with like listening to that stuff.
What do you mean?
I mean, the title.
Oh, I said Revenge of the Sith.
Oh, okay. I thought you had.
I opened up with Revenge of the Sith. No, I don't do a lot of leading. No, Revenge of the Sith is one of my favorite ones. That battle is, like I said, it's one of the all-time great saber duel battles. Seeing the Yoda and Palpatine come at it, seeing the Senate votes, seeing everything just, roll towards this horrible outcome that you pretty much grew up knowing what it was. So that's number 5 for me. Number 4 for me is Episode 4, A New Hope. I can't put it any higher than 4, because even though it's an epic movie, it changed things. But if we're going from quality and story and everything else, it's not the most important Star Wars movie. It's my favorite ones and the ones I like to watch. So A New Hope is very dated. It is the 70s. It was revolutionary, but like it's so cheesy, but it's great. It'll always be the most important Star Wars movie. If we were doing a list, obviously Star Wars is the most important Star Wars movie. But as far as quality and ones I can rewatch over and over again, Star Wars is, like I said, I take it for granted because it's always been there, but it's number 4. Number 3, Return of the Jedi. Return of the Jedi is on every level a great movie. It goes into each act is like its own epic. Darth Vader versus Luke Skywalker, Jabba the Hutt, Leia, all you preview wrestling boys back then got to see her in her little bikini. The Sarlacc pit, everything about that movie, the battle scenes. To be honest with you, the battle scene in the second Death Star is superior to a lot of them in Star Wars, including A New Hope. The Emperor, seeing the Emperor for real instead of the old lady with the goggles that they superimposed. It's just the Battle of Endor, all of that comes together in a beautiful movie. So that's number 3 for me. Number two, and this is the one people throw feces at me over. Rogue One is the second best Star Wars movie. Rogue One, and even though you always see me screaming about, dude, we're still in the same neighborhood, and I don't like the fact that all these things lead to the same old stuff. But if we're judging Rogue One on its own and then as part of the Star Wars lore, Rogue One's a great movie without being connected to Star Wars, in my opinion. Rogue One could add any war you want to, and any major you could have made Rogue One about Hitler getting the atomic bomb, and then this Rogue One group is stopping him from getting it, or stopping him. You could have made it any space opera. You could have made it anything. It just happens to be a Star Wars story. It's a great movie aside from that. So Rogue One is number 2 for me, and Empire Strikes Back. For reasons that might not even have anything to do with its quality, it's just where I saw it the moment I saw it with. Empire Strikes Back for me as a kid was a different story. It was the first movie that I saw where the heroes got the hell kicked out of them. Where the movie was just basically, just them getting chased all over the galaxy just to survive. and then things ending up with Han being frozen in carbonite. The battle between Luke and Vader. And then, the biggest moment for us kids in the 80s was, finding out, spoiler alert, it's been quite some time, that Darth Vader was Luke Skywalker's father. Okay, just imagine a world that only had 3 channels, no cable TV, and no internet. Imagine that news hitting you. So yeah, Empire Strikes Back is my favorite. So we go from, I'll give it a quick countdown before I hand it over to Brad. 11 is Rise of Skywalker, 10 is Last Jedi, 9 is Phantom Menace, 8 is Solo, 7 is Force Awakens, 6 is Attack of the Clones, 5 is Revenge of the Sith, 4 is Star Wars Episode 4, 3rd is Return of the Jedi, 2 is Rogue One, and number 1 on my list is The Empire Strikes Back. And then with that, I will hand it to Brad.
Yes, which also going by with the Empire, one was point about spoilers. I mean, imagine finding that out in 1980. Imagine also having spoiled by Homer Simpson, because some people had that too.
I would have rather you not admitted to that on our show, but
no, that's
that is sad.
Saw that. I saw that GIF was everywhere. That GIF was everywhere when Force Awakens was coming out, where it was being shared. Like, everybody, don't do like Homer did. Now that we're seeing a Star Wars movie in theaters again for the first time in 10 years, don't like Homer did. It's like, oh, who'd have thought Darth Vader was Luke Skywalker's father? Rice is walking out as the next.
People got in fights over that. I know people that got their asses kicked in school over that. Some kid would go to school and see it, because back in the day, we didn't all get it. We didn't all go to the movies at the same time. And there was a culture among us, even without the internet, that you didn't spoil things for people. And so we had some badass kids that were doing it at our school in LA, and they got their asses beat by multiple people, because that just ruined. Could you imagine having that, being in 1983 or whatever, 1983, and just having that ruined for you? Oh my goodness! Yeah, I saw some hands go up on that one. Not me. I didn't do it because I saw it open a day.
Well, now going over to my ranking on Star Wars, and I'm gonna pull up one of Aaron's here, because we finally found it. Where's this comment? Where's one Aaron left a minute ago? Let me see, because this plays into it.
Right. Yes, it is. The dialogue that's the best dialogue in Star Wars, because Star Wars has some really cheesy dialogue, but not in that movie.
Where is this? This one. I'm telling you, I promise this comment
is relevant. You should have put a star in it, man. You know that star is there for this exact reason.
Yeah. Okay, I'll just pick on William then, because he also made the same things. My lowest ranked one, my number 11, Attack of the Clones. Attack of the Clones is the only time in my life I have ever called the Star Wars movie boring. I'm sorry, it's like it just bored me to tears. I found it to be so slow, just so predicated on just just this and that and the Imperial Senate, and it's definitely, I would say, it's Hayden Christensen's, like, well, he's had. What has he done now? He's done a little bit on some of the Disney Plus shows, but as far as like his 2 performances in the movies, definitely his weakest. It just feels like a Star Wars movie that goes through the motions for me. Was Attack of the Clones. So yeah, I definitely rate that my lowest. Number 10. And again, these I was definitely much more of a Johnny Come Lately to the whole to the entirety of Star Wars. Yeah, I'd seen the original trilogy as a kid, but I didn't really properly get into Star Wars until I was probably into my early 20s. So this probably colors a lot of my analysis of the franchise, but that is what it is. Number 10, I probably would also go with the Phantom Menace at that point. And it's weird too, because there are things in it I really like. The main thing is Darth Maul, and with Wushu Master Ray Park. Who's worked in movies with Hong Kong guys, and Scott Adkins and Michael Jai White, and does awesome martial arts in it, and spinning kicks and bow staff work, and has one of the don't, I'm just getting started here, man. There's more I'm going to die. I think probably most people would agree. Like at the time, number one best lightsaber fight, is the finale there. There's only one that, in my opinion, that surpassed it so far. So really, the most of the the really good, I would attribute to Darth Maul and that, but everything else, the Phantom Menace really is kind of hit and miss for me. as a lot of people have said, it's like so much of it is it's predicated on space taxes and things like that, and it's just like that's I mean there's the basis of it just doesn't feel very Star Wars in terms of like in terms of the metaphysical elements, in terms of the kind of the galactic adventure that the original trilogy took us on. So yeah, I would definitely put Phantom Menace at my number 10. Number 9, I probably would go with this is one this is a 9 through 7. I probably can like interchange a little bit too. So that's something to bear in mind on these. I would probably say Rise of Skywalker is my number 9. And when I say that, I remember coming out of it thinking like I put that in the category of I liked it, but I wanted to love it. Because there are, I think, really strong elements in it. But as Williams like alluded to, I mean, you could just tell in Rise of Skywalker, they felt the divisiveness on. I mean, really, it's kind of like Star Wars, like Justice League 2017. It's like they felt the backlash to the preceding movie, and they pivoted hard. And I mean, best example you can see in that is the whole thing about Rey's parents and the whole thing. So they were nobody. They were nobody by choice. Oh, that is so crowbarred in. Yeah. So, but with that said, there are still definitely things in it I really enjoy. There are a lot of the scale of it is was really well done. I do really enjoy Kylo Ren's redemption story in it. And Rey, I think Daisy really kind of she really carries the role of Rey throughout the whole sequel trilogy, I would say. But again, it's altogether still pretty clunky and more often than not. So not the best finale to the sequel trilogy. So that's where I kind of would rank where I would put Rise of Skywalker. Number 8, I probably would go with Solo on 8, and that's another one where it's like overall I really enjoyed it. And when we get into this like phase, these are the ones where I consider 8 through like 5. Those ones I would call good, and then 4 through 1 I would consider great. And Solo, yeah, overall, overall enjoyed it. I mean, it is a little bit fan servicey in points, like the whole thing about we were explaining like how he did the Kessler run in 12 parsecs. It feels like okay, we really had to get into minutia for that. Explaining his last name, which I know that kind of annoyed people. I just thought it was kind of pointless. It's like I don't know, it didn't strike the name Han Solo never struck me as something that like needed like a proper explanation. I was still like, yeah, it's just like any other like Star Wars surname, just keep it as is. But again, overall, I felt it was like a good in Turk world, but a Star Wars story, kind of a movie in between like the proper prequels or sequel installments. So that's where I would put that. Where am I at now? Number 7. Number 7, I would which ones have I listed so far? Because again, like I said, these I could sort of interchange a little bit. Number 7, I would put here probably Force Awakens, because Force Awakens again, really enjoyed overall. I put it in the good category of Star Wars. Again, like we're going from like poor to moderate, and the up until 8 through 5, I would say good. 4 through 1, I would say great. And again, it was really great reintroduction overall, really good reintroduction overall, I should say, to the Star Wars. Bringing Star Wars back on screen. A lot of new great characters. I'm not as I think perturbed as William is. Probably kind of how they interweave the nostalgic elements with the other characters in it. With like Han and Luke and Leia. But you could definitely see also they are trying to tether themselves to some familiarity with it. The idea that they felt obligated to include them, obligated to kind of make Kylo Ren their son. Which, by the way, the first time I saw Force Awakens, in the part where Han sees Kylo on that catwalk, like the way it's framed, like yeah, I knew he was dying. Like 5 minutes before it happened. It's like I don't think I was the only one. Like William, did you like?
Yeah.
Yeah. You can tell.
That was at the midpoint of my disgust with the movie, because I'm like, if you were gonna do that, If you were going to do that with all these characters, you should have done it in the first half of the movie and not drag those characters out. Now that I saw the subsequent movies, I'm like, that made that decision even worse because you dragged out the rest of the relics throughout the entire series instead of you basically whatever flame that Ray and Finn and Oscar Isaac and all those other characters had, you just snuffed them up with the old blanket. So yeah.
Yeah, but well, also it was probably also like a way to get Harrison, because he famously wanted Han to die in Empire Strikes Back, and they taught him into just being frozen and brought back for Return of the Jedi, and so I would imagine that was just, I don't know if it's been confirmed outright, but that was a stipulation he had about you coming back. It's like, okay, you got to kill me finally now, and you got that.
Like I said, they could have done it. Not like I said, they did it, and then the way they treated the rest of the characters. I mean, if Carrie Fisher hadn't passed, she'd probably been in that last movie.
Yeah. Well, she was, but via
she was, but yeah, abbreviated,
clunkily integrated archive footage. And by the way, also, my biggest, probably my biggest complaint of Force Awakens, you have the dudes from the raid in it, and they don't do anything except get eaten by a squid. So that is, on any objective analysis, the worst part of Force Awakens. It just is. But you could have had those guys with lightsabers doing C-Lot, and it's like, come on, what are you doing? Now, I have apparently there was like a little bit of like a time issue, and they just weren't able to like work it out. But it's no, not acceptable, not acceptable. Next. So, but yeah, that's where I put Force Awakens. Now we're going into number 6, and again, these are ones I can kind of interchange at this point. Number 6, I would probably go with A New Hope, and I know that might seem like a little bit low on the list for it, but I actually find it, to me, it's actually kind of complimentary, because the idea of like it. This is where I describe it as being like the ones above it on the list. It's like this is a case of like it's on the shoulders of the greatness that A New Hope started. So really, I should kind of walk that back and say like 6 through 1 is like I consider the great ones. But yeah, A New Hope, I mean, what else can you say? It's the one that started the ball on Star Wars. I mean, it's like it got everything rolling on this universe and introduced us to the characters. It got all the imagery. It was, and being so far ahead of its time for 77, which is where I was born. But seeing even not being that into Star Wars as a kid until I got into my 20s. I mean, I was just completely blown away by it as when I was like 8 years old, seeing the original Star Wars. So yeah, and that's why I kind of position it to where it is, where it's like I put it in the category of being a great Star Wars movie, but the ones ahead of it, it's a testimony to the greatness it established, that all of them are on the shoulders of what A New Hope did. So that's where I put in number 6. Number 5, this is where I would rank. I put Rogue One there, and that's pretty much the same. Kind of everything William said there. It's it's got this is a war movie that if you took the Star Wars elements out of it, it would still be a fantastic war movie. And seeing these people under these desperate circumstances come together and really pull off this mission that calls upon them to make the ultimate sacrifice. And actually, I don't know if did you go into this or not, but I mean, it does have a little bit of the tethering to the Star Wars saga in the presence of Darth Vader. But the thing, I think it handles that really well, because it keeps him very compartmentalized in it. He's not a dominating presence in the movie. He's there.
Yeah, he's basically an end credit scene. Oh, yeah, he's in the movie too with talking to that one guy. But in the Death Star, there are elements in it, but it doesn't. And like I said, that's the only thing about it that I really regret, is that such an epic movie, and then going on to Andor leads me to the end of the cul-de-sac again. No matter how good these things are, I still end up in that place that I've already seen eventually. It's like,
yeah, but that's that's the thing about that is they keep him very not they keep him in check, but they use Darth Vader where he's most effective as a presence in Rogue One. So that's what I thought I did really well with him. Also, Donnie Yen's in it. He's the Hong Kong super.
Google them, guys. Don't spend too much time.
Oh, don't even try to suggest that nobody in the chat knows who Donnie Yen is.
No, I'm talking about future viewers. I mean, the chat knows. You've driven these names into these poor people's skulls, even if they didn't want to know who they are. They know who they are. But for the future person that's watching the show for the very first time, and Brad's bringing up these obscure kung fu people that no one has ever heard of.
I saw him recently in John Wick 4.
Okay, and not everybody who's watching the show has seen John Wick. I mean, that's just reality here. But
Yeah, it's the
Google
highest.
them,
It's the
guys.
highest grossing of the series. It's like math is
Okay,
undefeated.
and yeah, but that doesn't mean everybody in the world has seen it. You know,
Yeah,
Barbie made a 1 point
Williams
whatever billion, and I didn't see that. So there you go.
Williams was arguing against math. I never thought I'd see the day where it happened, but it's the first
Your
time. For
math, you have to actually be using the math in order to win.
yeah,
with
and Donnie's in $1 billion hit with.
All right, guys.
Okay, where am I at now? That was that 5 or 4?
I think you were at 5.
That was a 5. Okay. So now going off of 5 into number 4, that's where I think I would put Return of the Jedi. I think like where'd you rank Return of the Jedi?
I had Return of the Jedi up because I closed my screen out. Sorry. I think I have Return of the Jedi in the same spot as you did.
Yeah, we had about the same spot, and it's interesting. Kind of like I found like reading a lot of that kind of the commentary around it.
No, I had. Where are we at? We're at your 5.
Number 4.
No, I had Star Wars at number 4. I have Return of the Jedi at number 3.
Okay, well, but roughly the same range.
Yeah, just flip flop.
But it's reading a lot of the commentary on it. I've kind of got the sense where it's a lot of Star Wars fans sort of like rank it as the weakest of the original trilogy. It's like I and not even like in a hating it kind of way, but just they find it just the weakest of the 3. It to me it's like that. It's a really great it's a really great example of like this is how you kind of do like an epic finale to a trilogy. With the reconciliation of Luke and Vader, and the fact they kept Palpatine so in the shadows until the end when he is the villain of the whole trilogy. He just don't see him until the end. And so many other elements with it. Like Lando, taking on the Millennium Falcon. I mean, and while Han's helping on the koala bear planet, as I call it with shorthand. It's there's so many moving parts to the finale of a Return of the Jedi, but it all works. It's all functions so well, and the redemption of Vader. He goes from he has the whole transition from villain to anti-hero to hero, and you see it probably better now, even more illuminated now with having seen the prequels and the sequel trilogy. But that's one of the big elements for that really stand out of many for me. Return of the Jedi. So but as William pointed out, it really isn't the happy ending we all think it is, because I mean that planet is just getting showered with all the debris from the Death Star. So you gotta have to
people are dead.
Yeah, you gotta let some stuff slide that was left on the cutting room floor, but it is what it is. So that's where I rank Return of the Jedi. And now we're at my top 3, and this is one I'm sure it's going to get me some hate. Is which ones I'm gonna let me look at my list here real quick. Which ones I ranked already? Okay. So this is I know it's going to get me maybe ruffle some feathers on certain corners of the internet, but I really enjoyed Last Jedi. It's like I really.
Whoa! Where do you have that ranked? What number is this?
Number 3.
You're out of your mind. You have lost your damn mind.
No, that
is some deserving backlash. Hey, when you playing Broil Brad here, dude, turn it on a high. Holy shit! I'm sorry. It's like I'm in that camp that really liked Last Jedi, because it's the one out of the sequel trilogy where the stakes feel the most real to me, or the stakes feel the most elevated to me, and you could almost like have like two. It's almost like you could have like two parallels. Yeah, there are actually people who like Last Jedi. And by the way, also biggest weakness, I will say, of Last Jedi, Veronica No, Vietnamese pop star and martial arts legend, is not from things like The Rebel and The Princess. She's one of the Rebel fighters in it. Doesn't get to throw a single punch, so you shortchange her just like the race. Who cares? Wow, wow.
That's objectively speaking the worst part of it. But no, it's like
the movie is the worst part of it.
Is going on with it, with the like the main sort of rebel conflict, and then Rey's training with Luke, and he's the part with the ending with Luke, the finale with Luke, where I mean, they just made a meme that was tailor-made to be a meme. The whole like just dust his shoulder off. So I may be in the minority. I don't give a shit. I really like the Last Jedi. But now William's gonna like my what I put above it. Number 2 is Revenge of the Sith. That is, I mean that is other than Darth Maul's role in Phantom Menace. That is the definitive. That's the pillar of the prequels for me. Is how it's. Well, I mean,
it's all subjective. It's all subjective.
If I get threats about this, because I've heard people like getting like picked on for this, I just laugh it off. But Revenge of the Sith, again, it really that's how what I said about Return of the Jedi. That's how you end like a trilogy on a triumphant note. Revenge of the Sith is how you want to, if you want to end it on a note of defeat, which the nature of Star Wars, they kind of had to. But it's
because you know that it doesn't get any better.
But you're capturing Vader's downfall, and that it's they capture in a way that's both epic and tragic, and especially like in the in the finale where he loses Padme, and he has the big falling out with Obi-Wan in what is just the most epic lightsaber duel that Star Wars has ever done. I mean, it's just
long too.
Yeah. And that's also a little bit like sci-fi bullshit. And when they're like floating on the lava, it's like you don't have to actually be touching lava for it to burn you.
No, you can be. Yeah, you're pretty much gonna.
Well, that's kind of what happened to him anyway, because when he's sliding down the side of the there it is. They did one spark just flicks up and starts burning. It puts him in his. His infamous burns that necessitate the suit. I mean, that is there you go. But yeah, Revenge of the Sith. It's where the prequels really fire on all cylinders. It's a Star Wars movie that fires on all cylinders. It's got everything from just like the whole Star Wars package of just the metaphysical elements, the conflict of good and evil. It's very clearly an Iraq War allegory, which makes it really. I mean, the fact that William saw it while he was in Iraq.
I never felt that, and I was there. I was like, I never felt the allegory, and I was literally watching it there. But everybody views these things differently. I'm still trying to figure out what you mean without having to ask you. But I'm like,
if you're not with me, you're my enemy. Who else is known for saying that?
Oh, W. I mean, if you're not with us, you're with the terrorists. Yeah, W.
Yeah, without getting into politics here, but I mean, it's and a lot of people were saying at the time too, in both complimentary and criticizing ways, that he made it an Iraq allegory, and that's without getting into where any particular stance on it. But yeah, Revenge of the Sith, that's the prequel that really stands out the most, and for me, second best of the series, leading into number 1, which, like William, Empire Strikes Back. I mean, that's the middle chapter where, again, it's showing the heroes just getting their asses kicked and having to regroup and just come back for the last stand in the next one. And the fact that it's able to do that and still feel like it's telling its own complete story, where even though it's like even though with how it ends that this journey is not complete, we have one more chapter left, it still feels like a complete Star Wars movie, because there's so much more that's introduced in it from the first one. Vader he goes from being kind of like the big heavy in the first one to being he's so much more in the spotlight, so much more fleshed out in Empire. And of course we have the greatest movie twist of all time, Luke, I'm your father, that Homer Simpson spoiled for everybody. But it's been quoted ad nauseum. And it's Luke. I think it's Luke. Of all of Mark Hamill's performances as Luke, this is the one that is the most pure to me. Is his portrayal of Luke in Empire Strikes Back, and I would also extend that to Harrison Ford and Carrie Fisher in their portrayals of Han and Leia. So that's definitely where I would rank as my number 1 of Star Wars is Empire Strikes Back.
All right, hey Clint, I'm not dropping a link right now because I'm about to wrap up the show, because I actually got to go get something before these places close, because I live in Mayberry. So that's it. So those are our top 10s. I read a couple top 10s, but that's where we're at. And like I said, on this May 4th, the state of Star Wars to me is in a flux. I think they just don't, I hope they get their identity back. I hope that, and by identity, I don't mean just retreading the same, earth that we've been treading on the past 45, 48 years. I mean, to make Star Wars recognizable beyond something that is that is not tethered to the same the same story. Not that it was a bad story, but it's a story that's been told.
Yeah, sorry, that was Murphy making some noise. I let him back in.
So yeah, it's more of a no. I don't hate Star Wars. I don't hate Luke Skywalker. I don't hate it's I've told me those stories. I want now you're telling me that that's all there is, and that we're just going to continue to bounce the ball off the wall and bounce these stories and these characters off of each other for the next 30 or 40 years. I still want to be a part of that. That's why in many ways I've distanced myself from Star Wars as far as the expectations goes, because I don't have any expectations for the next Star Wars anything. That includes the Mandalorian. The only expectation I have is I'm going to be treated to to that cul-de-sac again. And until they decide that when I see the scroll, Clint, check your Facebook message. When I see a scroll that says 2,000 years from the Battle of Yavin, that's when my ears are going to perk up, and I'm going to be like, okay, now we're expanding Star Wars beyond the same backyard that we've been visiting the barbecues in. So that's where I'm at with Star Wars. I was there with Star Trek for a long time, but Star Trek had to learn its own lesson. Star Trek had to make a decision, and do we want to fade away? Do we want to just become something that this particular generation, of either baby boomers or Generation X, is this all we have? And once they die off or disengage, what do we do with our franchise? Do we want it to die here where it lays, or do we want people talking Star Wars and Star Trek for the next 50 or 60 years in a positive light? Right now, a lot of the discourse that comes around when it comes to Star Wars is not always positive. In fact, from my point of view, it's mostly negative. So I'm going to bring on Clint. This is how we're going to wrap up the show. He wants to talk about Phantom Menace real quick. Go ahead, Clint. You're on, Clint. Go ahead.
You're on.
Can you hear me? Let me unmute you. Unmute yourself, Clint. You're muted if you're trying to talk. Clint,
can you hear us, man?
let me message him. I'm going to message him, make sure he got it. There you go. All right, Clint, go ahead. Maybe there's something wrong with his computer. I just texted him and let him know he was muted.
Yeah.
We'll give him a couple minutes.
Okay, all right.
There you go.
Sorry, my computer was just being funky. But anyways, Phantom Menace is one of the best prequels ever if you ignore Jar Jar.
Yeah.
Okay.
The
pod races were amazing. The Duel of Fates was. You guys keep talking about them on that fire planet.
Mustafar.
Yeah, Mustafar.
Yeah.
But no.
I'm sorry. Duel of Fates with
Darth
Maul. With
Darth
Master Ray Park.
Okay.
Go ahead, Clint. Just go ahead.
Yeah.
Darth Maul and young Obi-Wan and what are they? Qui-Gon. That was an amazing. It was fast-paced. They weren't all trying to show how good they can balance on things in that battle on Mustafar. That's all it was. Look how well I balance over lava. And it's just and the subtlety of the Emperor, or the soon-to-be Emperor, how he's manipulating people, just subtly manipulating them into doing his bidding without doing his bidding. It's just that's what made the Phantom Menace great.
I definitely don't have it at my bottom. I just have some other ones ranked ahead of it, though. But like I said, all film is subjective. But those are all fair elements about Phantom Menace. It is probably the much maligned one out of all the other than the sequels, but there are enough good things about Phantom Menace to put it in the middle of the road for me. I think the Battle of Mustafar was better than the Duel of Fates, but that's an opinion. I just thought by the time that they got to Revenge of the Sith, they had gotten their footing on how they wanted to tell the story. So that's why I put it up there. But yeah,
and Revenge of the Sith was just, you got the Emperor being this subtle manipulator, then all of a sudden he becomes ultimate power. Rah!
Well, he was always that, and he just kept it hidden because it wasn't time. That's like you said, he kept himself hidden to the point. Now, obviously, we seeing these movies after seeing Return of the Jedi, we know what he is, but to keep it hidden amongst those that was an extra thing to do. And then when he kills all those Jedi Masters, he just starts doing the whole M. Bison thing where he flies through the air and cuts them all down. I was kind of shocked that they handled it that way, but that was cool.
I'm fine with how but I mean, just he's always been a sneaky, manipulative, nudge here, push there, compliment here, just to get his way, to get the pieces lined up to destroy them all.
Yep. Much appreciated. All right, guys. That's been May the 4th, our Sunday night live stream. I got to go get some places before these places close. I got to get some food. We will not be on the air tomorrow, per usual on Monday, unless I just, like I said, get a hair up my ass. You never know. I might get a burst of injury, but we are not scheduled. I am not planning ahead to do a show tomorrow. Doesn't mean there won't be one, but just keep an eye on the alert bell. It'll happen at some crazy hour in the morning, depending on how I'm feeling at any given moment. So until then, thank you for a great week, both online and for those of you who were able to come out to Free Comic Book Day and beyond. That's it for me. Anybody got any last words before we go?
May the force be with you.
There you go, Clint.
Have fun.
And Williams Fly, may the burger be with you. Good advice.
It's not going to be a burger tonight. All right. See you guys next week.
There you guys.